Hello everyone and welcome, this is Common and Cam. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing TF Nation's Transformers Animated The Trial of Megatron Part 1, 2 and 3, alongside with my dude, Kian Carnile.
Hello.
I did say your name right this time, right?
This time, yes.
Oh, thank God. For those who are not aware, back in 2019, TF Nation held a panel with the original voice cast of Transformers Animated, and they basically read out a draft script of the early plans for Season 4 called The Trial of Megatron. And yes, it's only now being released officially to the public on YouTube, just recently uploaded on the TF Nation's YouTube channel. So a big shout out to them. You know, if you haven't already, go watch those videos. I am assuming you have, because then you want to know what my opinion is on them. But if you haven't, go watch those videos and then come back to this review, because we will be spoiling the episodes when we get like deep into it, like the characters, laws, and all that kind of stuff. The Allspec Almanac gave us a lot of information on what would have happened if Season 4 was made. And well, over the years, actually, when you think about it, we've had a lot of great additions to the Transformers Animated continuity, you know, mostly at conventions like the return of Blur, the Trial and Error, and now these drafts of these 3 episodes that they had planned out. Just right off the back, you know, before we get into major spoilers, how did you feel hearing the original animated cast again in like fresh new voices? Obviously, it's, you know, no filters on them for the most part, which is weird, but how did that feel to you?
It just felt great. It was truly a surreal experience. I got a little squad together and we discussed our thoughts like 5 minutes after TF Nation ended. So in my video, we're kind of like making fun of some of the production value and like questioning some of the story decisions. But like once the dust settled, my feelings on that are just so overwhelmingly positive. It's kind of disheartening because the fact that Hasbro let them make it public, it means they really aren't too interested in it anymore. But I mean, it's bittersweet. Possibly the first and last time we'll hear these voices in like a decade. But I loved it. I really just loved the experience. It was clearly an incomplete. It wasn't even a script. It was like a first draft outline of what it was going to be, written in the third person. I mean, whatever it was still an official production material, and it was really interesting and really insightful.
In my head, I think that Hasbro, yeah, they don't want to go back. They'd rather just look back. And it's been the same with all their Transformers continuities. Like, they'd rather just look back at it instead of actually, you know, going back to it. And that's the case for Animated. Like, yeah, they've made this public, so this is not going to more likely see, you know, episode quality production. You know, you think of shows that have come back, you know, like Samurai Jack, and you'd think, all right, there's a lot of love for that, and same for Animated. But with it being obviously a toy branded, you know, kind of thing, it's just going back to an old continuity, you know, continuing a story. I feel like if Hasbro opens that door for Animated, it'll just have people saying, well, where's the sequel to Beast Wars? Where's the sequel to G1 or Prime? Especially Prime, you know, people will be wanting to...
Prime people are very loud, yeah. They'd be like, hey, where's the Robots in Disguise 2001 sequel we've all been waiting for?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
That show is cute. I like it.
It's actually really funny as well. I was surprised. I was taken aback how funny it was.
I know. Like, intentionally, too, unlike G1, which was funny by accident.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, hearing all these voices again, even if they weren't properly filtered, like especially Blitzwing.
Yeah, that was traumatic.
Ratchet at first was a bit rusty, but I feel like the cast did all right. You know, to be fair, I think David Kaye did a really good job. All of them did, really.
What my friend Alex, or Gloria 720p, pointed out is that when Corey Burton started, he was like really rusty, and then by the end of the script reading, he completely resettled into it. Like, it just took him a little bit. Because they weren't all actually live at TF Nation. They all recorded their audio separately and then sent it to Marty Eisenberg. What's interesting about drafts is that, like, basically, Marty just goes and he breaks down, like, the core of what would need to happen in a scene. So, like, for example, like, Lugnut, Blitzwing, Shockwave, they only have, like, one line each in this draft. I think Lugnut has a few. But obviously, in an actual episode, like, you want to get, you know, your money's worth with those voice actors, and they'd most likely have had more lines in other places. That was just, like, the core, like, quick and dirty. Here's kind of the quickest version of what could happen, executives, if we decide to get another green light.
I felt like all the parts had a lot going off in it already as it was. You know, we've got voice actors who weren't even in it, like Tara Strong, the big one actually, Tara Strong, obviously the voice of Sari, and Judd Nelson as well, but Judd Nelson, he's too hot of an actor.
You're not going to get Judd Nelson for TF Nation.
But I was actually okay with the Rodimus voice actor I've ever got.
Yeah, actually, it sounded pretty damn good. I was expecting cringe, and I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty good.
It was fine. Like, I enjoyed it. I haven't got anything to complain about because I'm treating it like a draft. Like, I'm not treating it like an episode. So,
A recurring theme is Optimus constantly saying, like, hey, now, I'm not a Magnus, okay? I'm not a hero. And that's great. Great characterization. I love it. But they don't necessarily do anything with it. He kind of just says that a lot, and then it's no real arc. But again, you're not knocking this. This is not like a complete package like Kingdom. This is a draft. And Marty could have, I'm sure he would have, like, continued and finished that arc and polished.
It was only meant to be designed just to show Hasbro and Cartoon Network the possibility. Like, they just... And I can't believe they actually didn't go ahead with it, with the material they had. This could have been one of the best seasons of Transformers Animated, period, by everything that was kind of shown. It was mostly on Cybertron as well, which was great. But one of the constant things with these three parts is the third-person narration of a news anchor. It's a character called Uplink. The entire time I was like looking at Uplink's character, the way I was speaking, I just kept picturing you.
I have the voice of a prepubescent child. I that would not work in the slightest. I would take the opportunity if given, but I don't think it would be too good.
Part 1 starts out in the aftermath of Decepticons' defeat. An unprepared Optimus Prime is pushed into conflict with Sentinel Prime for the position of Autobot leader, and Sentinel isn't afraid to play dirty. Now, it just seems like Sentinel can't get away from being an absolute ass. One thing I really liked in this episode actually was the blatant reference to the 1986 movie with Ultra Magnus handing the hammer to Optimus Prime, much like how Optimus Prime handed the Matrix to Ultra Magnus that movie. What a great nod to that. Like, that would have just been amazing. And obviously in the background we've got Sentinel Prime listening to that. That's how I was going to connect into that.
He is my favorite character from Transformers Animated because he's just this dirty, power-hungry Autobot. You don't really get that very often. That's the same reason that Marty Eisenberg loved writing him and gave him a bigger role. And they're pushing him so far into this conniving role. I love it. I think this is probably the most extreme he's ever been because he's a bumbling idiot through the first 2 seasons, but when he becomes temporary Magnus, he becomes legitimately dangerous. He's a demagogue, and they're pushing that to the extreme because that is the most natural direction to go with a season 4 premiere. They're back on Cybertron. Sentinel just got promoted. I think no matter what happens, a season 4 episode 1 or 2 would have to deal with how Sentinel controls Cybertron and how it affects everyone there. I have no complaints about how they handled Sentinel Prime, and I love how Townsend Coleman plays him.
Well, don't get me wrong, I don't really have a complaint with him. Like, I liked his character and all, but I felt there's a little part of me that just, like, the way how he was kind of played out at the end of season 3, him and Optimus kind of had, like, there was a bit more of a mutual respect rather than a friendship, actually. And I was just kind of hoping that it would kind of develop into a bit more, but then this, the way how this plays out is like, no, he's straight back to douchebag, which is like, okay.
Every time you start to root for him, every time you start to think he's gonna make the right choice, he takes this sharp left turn and regresses. Every time you think he's gonna make the right choice, he digs his heels in, his big oversized heels, and he just makes the wrong choice. It's like I think it's very intentional that Sentinel never changes. He's not willing to learn. He's not willing to change. He's essentially the Autobot Starscream.
I like the scene that breaks out in McAdam's old oil house, and you got Sentinel Prime basically being embarrassed because Uplink's recording everything. So it's like, I'm glad that his dirtiness does get cut out. But let's talk about another character that I have been wanting to see in the franchise for a long time. Obviously, this is done through this, but he has yet to officially make an appearance once again, is Beachcomber. And oh my god, they completely went out. By the design though, you look at him and you think surfer voice. He's got a surfer voice on him. And he also has a Scooby-Doo van, which I thought was interesting.
That's just some artist having fun. It would not have looked like that in the show.
I read that he was originally meant to die in season 3 of Transwarped. Just seeing his tiny size against Blackout They hinted that he wasn't going to die anyway, like he was going to come back in a potential 5th season. I also read that as well, which I'm like thinking they just really want to kill Beachcomber.
Yes, they do.
I love how chilled out kind of like Beachcomber is a little bit, well, at least the tone of his voice is like, man, why are you doing this? Why you gotta go do
Like,
this?
there's no way that scene would have actually made an episode. It has nothing to do with anything.
No, it's just kind of for their own pleasure, really, just to see Beachcomber blown up. Now, that's another thing I want to point out that I didn't in the beginning, is the art that is shown throughout the entire parts. Like, they did a really good job. You know, you can just picture it with some of the arts. Like, okay, some of them are just still images, sure.
There was one artist in particular that, their stuff looked better than the actual show. Because Derek has a very specific art style. I don't think everything really matched it, but I think there was like one artist in there out of the 5 that just nailed it with every single drawing they did.
It looked like art you'd catch on DeviantArt. You know, you've got this artist doing commissions. It looked like commission pieces, to be fair. We get loads of hints of Bumblebee promising Sari that he will find answers, you know, for Sari, and we get to see Prowl, the ghost of Prowl, anyway. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, Prowl just died at the end of season 3, and we would have seen him kind of straight away after his death. I liked it, I enjoyed it, but a part of me felt like just him appearing straight away. If season 4 were to have happened, it would just kind of like have taken like, oh, he could just probably show up at any point and just give us advice.
Yeah, I think he probably would have. I mean, they still have Jeff Bennett in the main cast. They were gonna take advantage of it. I mean, I've had like 12 years to get used to the fact that Prowl's dead, but it would have been weird at the time. It would have been like in the Transformers Prime finale when Bumblebee dies and comes back within 3 minutes to kill Megatron.
Another thing that happens in this part, which I thought was good to see again, was Rattletrap.
Yes.
And I loved the fake photo he just showed Central Prime.
Photoshop. I love it.
At first he tells him to go away, but then he actually starts looking at it and thinking, actually, maybe I could do something about this. It's like, oh god, okay, here we go. Sentinel also using Ironhide. I liked Ironhide a lot. Like, I thought he was... I liked hearing the voice again. Just hearing more of Ironhide. Even though it is a corny cowboy kind of accent.
Ironhide to Ultra Magnets!
Imagine if they got Peter Cullen just to do Ironhide.
But he does the weird voice too.
Yeah, that would have been great. Like, Peter Cullen, we're going to have you in Transformers Animated. Oh, am I Optimus Prime? No, you're going to be Ironhide.
And you're going to do a weird cowboy voice, Peter Cullen.
I think that would have been refreshing for him. I think it would have been... I feel like he would have enjoyed that. Instead of doing Optimus Prime for a change, it just gets to be someone else in a Transformers show.
That would be so funny, actually. Because he has not voiced Ironhide since the original, has he?
Yeah, and I don't know why. Peter Cullen is a voice actor. He does have different ranges.
Yeah, I know. Like, they've never casted him as anything else, despite the fact that he could voice, like, any other Transformer pretty damn well. Peter Cullen as Starscream. Make it happen.
Well, that's part 1. Let's talk about part 2 now. Part 2 is, as Cybertron comes under attack from the strike force of Decepticons, Megatron uses Sentinel's incompetent authoritarianism and his own public trial to his advantage. I can't believe I said that word right on this spot as well. Bumblebee wanting to be an elite guard member and kind of betrays Optimus Prime, which, to credit, I felt like that was weird. Like that, I felt like, because obviously this is just a draft, I felt like if they had another draft, they could have probably cleaned up a lot of things a bit more to make it not seem completely out of the blue. Because I understand how his arc from the Autobot boot camp, you know, it can carry over his ambitions, his goals, but then it just feels kind of a bit weird considering how close he's been with Optimus Prime, you know, throughout the entire season, you know, how much he's grown, how much he's overcome a lot of things. And for that kind of backflip, it's like, okay, it's not completely out of the blue. I mean, it does get wrapped up anyway. It's more like a 1-episode learning kind of thing.
Yeah, no. Would have been back to normal.
Yeah, which is like, okay.
43 episodes in, Bumblebee is like, bye. Yeah.
And I've always thought this incarnation of Bumblebee has been the arse type. You know, he's actually, yeah, he does remind me a bit of Beast Wars Rat-Trap, to be fair.
He was never supposed to be Bumblebee originally. This was supposed to be Hotshot, and all, like, in his original production Bible, it is Hotshot. It's like, it's a really very weird, different version of Bumblebee. It's more Hotshot than Bumblebee, basically. It's Hotshot with the yellow and black coat of paint.
Even with Bumblebee, you got to think about it. The last incarnation of Bumblebee before animated was the G1 cartoon.
Yeah. Yes, this was like the second. Well, I mean, this, if you're not counting the Michael Bay one, this was like the second real Bumblebee.
Yeah, but
I think that came out like 6 months before.
Yeah, but at that point, we actually had 3 different versions of Bumblebee. You know, animated was the arse type, G1 was like the humble lad, and then the Michael Bay movies, Bad Bumblebee was more of a cute kind of Bumblebee.
He was a serial killer. He was a cute serial killer.
Yeah, cute serial killer, yeah, we'll dub that. And in this part as well, we get Sentinel wanting to get information from Megatron, and Megatron reveals that there's a base located on the 5th moon of Char. But all the while he's downloading information from the minicons, which I loved seeing the minicons, just as a big Armada fan, and having them look exactly like, the minicons from Armada as well, which was just cool to see that Megatron is using them, which is unfortunate for the minicons, but still. But one thing I would have loved to have just seen in animation, like this is why I just hoped we had gotten a season 4, was the Char Moon battle scene. You know, we got Optimus Prime versus Cyclonus. Like, that was just amazing. Like, seeing the Cyber Ninjas versus Blackout, you got Drift, Atlas, all that. Seeing the Cyber Ninja Corps in action was also really cool. It's just kind of like, damn it, I wish we could have seen this animation. Team Char was one of my favorite iterations of Transformers animated season 3. We got other things in this scene as well. Sentinel's power suit not working properly, which is like, okay, another reason to embarrass Sentinel Prime. I love it. Keep doing it. Keep giving us this content, Marty. We got Rattletrap defending Megatron, which is just like, okay. Rattletrap started out being this really scared dude of Captain Fanzone's spit.
He's literally an singular scene. He's an singular scene. He was like such a minor character. When I made my original draft of the first season, I basically just made Rattletrap like continuing to be an extra, because I could never have imagined that he would have a role this significant going forward. He would have had a solo episode later in the season called This Is Why I Hate Organics, where he's stuck on Earth too.
I like how he says, when it comes to Earth, he says oif.
Oif. Yeah.
It's just like, that's a proper New York thing to say, oif, instead of Earth.
I found it really funny when Sentinel Prime's like, assault on a space bridge repair ship? That's all we have on him? That's like a parking ticket. He's just angrily venting. That's funny to me. That out of all his crimes, they would have shown like flashback footage to previous episodes, and then they couldn't even land him because nothing happened in Cybertronian space. That's so clever. The thing is, like, after the war, he was cleared of all his crimes or something. I think that was what they mentioned. So, like, all they can really charge him on legally is what he's done since the war, which has just been the events of Transformers Animated.
It was good seeing the flashbacks. Like, I liked how each character had a particular moment throughout the series. With like Optimus
They used
Prime.
everyone.
Yeah, like Bulkhead as well when he was kidnapped by him. And we got Ratchet with the Omega Supreme situation. And then obviously Optimus Prime, the first time they encountered each other, crossed in with Sari as well.
But also, they had a still of the trial, and that one's from 2019. But I think whoever drew that didn't realize that there is an actual courtroom in the Metroplex. Pretty much every Cybertronian location from the previous, really just season 3, all come back because there's not much money to have someone design an entirely new location. That's clearly why they reused almost all of those locations in the episode. It was just a money thing. Marty was thinking that out as he wrote, clearly.
Moving on to part 3 now. Megatron makes his ultimate play as he sets the Decepticon capital city, Kaon, on a collision course with Earth. Now, I thought this was really cool. I liked how just Kaon just taking off, just completely crumbling Cybertron with Autobots getting trapped. I always loved the cameos in animated, whenever we got Huffer in the background on Cybertron. I'd kind of like the same with this. Each we got Autobots from different parts of the planet just kind of like running in fear, and it's like, oh look, there's Paraglide, oh look, there's pipes or whatever, which I thought was really cool. But the Trypticon prison itself, like, I was thinking, if season 4 had continued, I really would have loved to have seen Trypticon actually transform into Trypticon, because then we would have probably have gone somewhat Omega Supreme versus Trypticon.
That's something that I actually cover in, I think, an upcoming TFA Mysteries, if I haven't already released it, is they were not going to do Metroplex and Trypticon as actual Transformers, because that would have been like really repetitive to what they already did with Omega Supreme, because every plot twist in Transformers Animated is, oh, surprise, that thing we didn't think was a robot, it's a robot! Grimlock, sorry, Omega Supreme, Blur. That's every plot twist in the show, every single one. So Marty he probably picked up like we've done this too many times. Let's not do Metroplex or Trypticon at this point.
Honestly, I don't care if it is repetitive. I want to bloody see it. It's Transformers Animated. I want to see Transformers Animated Trypticon. There's actually one amazing Trypticon fan art, and I remember just looking at it as a kid. And that's how old the drawing is. I'll have to get it up or credit the artist in some way. You've probably seen it yourself, but it's just like, damn, that is amazing. Almost every character that kind of gets designed in Transformers Animated form always looks badass and cool in some way.
If it's done by Derek, yes. There's also some really weird stuff in the Allspark Almanac too that doesn't even look like anything Derek-like.
There's some good DeviantArt users who manage to really know the look, you know, and it's really cool. I remember the Combaticons. Someone did the Combaticons at one point, and I thought they looked really cool. In this episode, we hear Lugnut and Blitzwing.
Yes.
Lugnut sounds like Lugnut. Blitzwing without the filter is pretty weird, but it was also interesting to know that's how he actually sounds before we do the filters. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought that was cool to hear anyway. But still, nonetheless, it's really cool to really hear that. And Corey Burton as well being Shockwave. You know, I really liked hearing Shockwave again.
He hasn't voiced it in so long.
Yeah, and it's the same with Sue Blue with RC. I mean, in Transformers in general, she hasn't really done much with Transformers.
I don't think she's been in anything Transformers related since Animated, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't believe so, because obviously Hasbro went in a completely different direction when it came to the line continuity and all that kind of stuff. But
although I think the upcoming Nickelodeon show might be Union again, because it has a lot of like the typical Union folks in the writing seat, like the people. Nicole Dubuque is back. She did Rescue Bots. You got a lot of like the Sonic Boom writers, which was, I think, a Union show.
I like Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom's really fun.
It's probably gonna be Union. And I'm just my fingers are so crossed, because that would open up so many doors, especially in the realm of Animated.
In this episode as well, I liked Megatron's remark to Rodimus Prime, or Rodimus Minor, saying he's a bit young to be a commander. I just love that line. Like, Megatron's lines are always really written well. Obviously, it being aimed at someone like Rodimus, to which many G1 fans are very much aware of how he started out in the franchise. It's like, this dude's a bit young, he's also a bit of a brat. But I like Rodimus in Animated, and I felt like Rodimus actually felt like, a very formidable foe when it came to him leading the fleet, going after against Megatron. I liked how, as well, Megatron just holding Sentinel Prime hostage. Like, everyone's like demanding for Sentinel to be released. And I'm like, yeah, but at this point, do we really? do we
need Sentinel?
Do we need to save him? Because he's a bit of an ass.
Just let it happen.
Yeah, Sentinel with Lugnut's punch of kill everything. Just him kind of flying out with that strapped on him.
It was out of scale, but it was drawn very well. His Lugnut's wrist alone should be larger than Sentinel.
Yeah, I just thought the way how it was drawn, like, I just wanted to see him fly off, like, it just strapped up like that. We do get in this part the kind of shifting of the cast, like Ironhide, protecting Optimus Prime really well, to that matter. There's a part in the episode where he actually does save Optimus Prime. Like, his Ironhide weapon is actually used, and I kind of liked how Animated played on the names and making them actually part of like their weapon choices.
I love it.
But Bulkhead staying on the farm, and now Ironhide joining the ranks. Love it or not, the original 2007 live action movie nailed the Autobot cast, I felt, perfectly.
I think they got the best. I think they got pretty much the best options. Prowl's the only one I can think of, like...
They're the perfect five. You could add Prowl and RC, add them into the mix as well. But I just loved the kind of 2007 movie flashback they did, while at the same time insulting the movies by Optimus Prime ripping off his flames.
It's because they didn't like the movies, but Hasbro was making them throw in Ironhide to match them more, so they were kind of like bitter about that.
But it worked, though. I felt like when Optimus Prime captures Jazz and Ironhide at the end, telling Ironhide, thank you for saving my skid plate there. I just liked that interaction, how he says, no worries, Optimus. I just liked how he talks to Prime. Okay. And I felt like it built up as well. Like, Ironhide just defending Optimus Prime, because he's told he has to. And he's actually, when he actually does save him, it's like there's a payoff to it as well. Like, it's not just a gag for Sentinel to just tell Ironhide to look after him.
I think there's a lot of potential for a good bond there between Optimus and Ironhide, because Ironhide has this duty to protect Optimus at all costs, but he's actually like working for Sentinel as well. I wonder how Ironhide would have interacted with Ratchet and Jazz, and Bumblebee as well, because I wonder if they would have continued the auto boot camp stuff, which they did in this. So I would imagine they would have brought it up, like Ironhide used to bully Bumblebee and shove him in lockers.
I felt like Ironhide would just not remember.
That's what I did. That's what I thought was just really... I had the idea. I thought that was funny. Like, Ironhide just has no idea who Bumblebee is.
I already knew this happened, but like just seeing Megatron throw Ramjet, to power up Trypticon, that is a very Megatron thing to do. Like, that was just hilarious.
He's desperate.
That's the thing with this Megatron. Like, it felt literally... He felt like a still powerful threat. He carried on being the Megatron because this Megatron incarnation is by far my favorite. I love how he like changed his goal as well. Like, it was no longer Cybertron. He was just going to go straight to Earth, take Trypticon, slap bang on Dinobot Island. And I loved how Scrapper was there as well. Just kind of looking as it's about to crash down on Dinobot Island. It's like, how much more can that island take?
I know. It cracked me up. That poor island doesn't deserve any of it. Did nothing wrong.
But we do see a lot of Optimus Prime in the Power Master suit, which was really cool. Obviously it's going to work for him instead of Sentinel. And seeing him file on Bumblebee as well, we'll kind of talk about that as well. Bumblebee arc being wrapped up. Him obviously defending Optimus Prime in the trial, talking about how much of a badass he was taking on Megatron. It wasn't just a father and son kind of thing like Hasbro seems to do a lot with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. Now this actually seemed like a friendship of sorts.
Yeah, I agree.
Design of the Power Master suit. At first I thought it looked a bit goofy, the Power Master suit, because I'm not a massive fan of when they add gimmicks, just like the Transmetals in Beast Wars. It's like, oh, did they have to do that?
Yeah, I don't like that generally.
You could definitely tell that was a Hasbro thing. Like, they just made a toy, they just wanted to upgrade Optimus Prime in some way, and they had to incorporate it somehow. It never got to see the actual light of day, but still.
What's funny is that Derek Wyatt, he never actually saw that. That was completely made by the toy side of Hasbro, Eric Siebenahler. And then Derek has tweeted before that, like, he never liked it. It would have looked completely, fundamentally different had a fourth season actually happened. We've gotten used to this, like, unofficial one. Like, this like, kind of basically a piece of concept art.
I can't imagine Marty Eisenberg and Derek J. Wyatt, like, thinking that this was their idea. Like, I can't imagine it being their idea.
Hasbro, basically, the only things that we know for sure would have happened in Season 4 are the things that Hasbro wanted. That being Megatron as the main villain, Megatron getting upgraded to a triple changer, Kaon coming to Earth, Ironhide joining the main cast, mini-cons, Optimus getting a big upgrade. Like, all the things that Hasbro wanted because of toys and marketing, those are the only things that we know for sure would have happened. Whereas everything else from the Almanac, from the drafts, those are just ideas that could have happened, but maybe not, because there's not even room for all of those episode premises that we know of. Like, we wouldn't have gotten all those episodes that we've grown attached to.
So I'm going to wrap it up there for part 3. Just my general conclusion to this, it's just, like, amazing just to get this. I feel like we're very lucky to have the actors, the people who were involved in creating and writing this, to still be involved, to still be talking about it, so many years on. Even though this was just a draft, it was still a delight, still a treat. Very rare for a continuity to get this level of love and kind of dedication, really.
Yeah, and they all did this for free, too.
Yeah, this was all for a charity event, by the way, as well. So, Kian, what's your final words? What's your final say on this?
Because I had read the actual outlines 2 years ago, there weren't too many surprises here for me. It was basically just the characters reading the TF Wiki article, which I was not expecting. Because when I interviewed Marty, I said, was it an outline or a script? And Marty said, yes, it's a complete script. And then it was straight up an outline. So Marty just was wrong. But I'm very happy. I'm very thankful and grateful that TF Nation pulled the strings and convinced Hasbro to dig this up, and that Marty was on board, and that everyone still loves the show. Hasbro just needs to see that TFA can be profitable and that people are passionate about it. That's what I think needs to happen. My thoughts are thank you to TF Nation, thank you to the voice actors, thank you to everyone involved, because it was just great. It's just surreal and really fun to see. Story nicks aside, production value aside, it was great.
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, it is a first draft, and there are some slight issues. But, if Hasbro actually decided to give their shows extra breathing room, like an extended life, instead of just keeping it to kind of 3 seasons of sorts, I feel like they would realize there's more potential, and it would actually save a lot of time on having to reinvent all the time. They don't have to constantly keep shifting, like they can let something breathe. I mean, they've let the Michael Bay movies go on for this long now. It's like, why can't a show kind of get this similar treatment? But unfortunately, it is what it is. But the love for the franchise, especially in Transformers Animated, will always continue. If you haven't already, guys, do check out TF Nation's videos of the Trial of Megatron Part 1, 2, and 3. I will obviously put them in the description. I assume you've already watched them, though. But if you haven't, I'll do that anyway. Yeah, Transformers Animated, damn, what a show. Come on, Netflix. Actually give us something we want.
I agree.
Anyway, guys, this has been Comic Cam. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and click on that notification bell to get all updates instantly. Once again, thank you, Keenan, for joining me.
No problem.
And to the next video, guys, goodbye.